Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
And welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode 99 for the 10th of September 2010. Richard Saunders here with you, sitting at the most wonderfully beautiful, spectacularly picturesque lake up here in the Rocky Mountains. I'm with my good friend. You know him as the bad astronomer, Dr. Phil Plait. Hi, Phil.
Good day.
Good day. Where exactly are we?
We're at Black Lake, which is in Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado. And it's, if you know where Denver is, if you look on a map and you drive north about, 100 kilometers, and then turn left. And that takes you into the Rocky Mountains, and these are magnificent peaks, and they top off at 4,000 meters, 4,500 meters. They're pretty high up.
And
it's
so are we.
Here. Yeah, we're up about 3,000 meters. The air is noticeably thinner here.
It is.
Richard and I are both struggling a little bit. The trails aren't too bad, but walking up hills, you get to the top, you know you're in thinner air. Yeah.
But for the views from Wonderland, aren't they? They just and the day is beautiful. It's still, there are scattered clouds. The sun comes out, and it just can't get much better than this.
Yeah, we've got some wildlife sitting right next to us.
Yeah,
some squirrels and chipmunks and some interesting birds flying around. It's really gorgeous here. I don't get here enough.
No, same with me.
Yeah.
Well, coming up on this week's episode of the Skeptic Zone, we have a special report from DragonCon, Atlanta, Georgia. A bit of an overview of DragonCon, interviewing lots of people here and there. And that's followed by Dr. Rachie reports, where she's reporting live from the vaccination booth at DragonCon. The Skeptics set up a booster room, and lots of people came in. We'll hear more about that later. What is that?
That's a golden mantled squirrel, I think.
That's about
look
a
at
meter
how
away
adorable
from you.
that thing is.
Look. Wow.
It just ran right past me.
That's too good to be true.
As cute as it could have possibly have been.
Well, while Phil and I catch our breath and have another sip of water. What was that? Don't fall!
My wife is at the edge of this lake. It flows into a stream, and it makes beautiful waterfalls down the hill. But there's a lot of fallen
Go
trees
around the
here.
long way.
There's like a 30 by 10 meter pile of dead wood, pine and aspen, and I'm not sure what else. And it's all
she's gonna go
debarked and bleached in the sun. It's clearly been here for decades, and she's scrambling over it.
Well, while Phil and I actually go and rescue her, we'll let you listen to this episode of the Skeptic Zone. DragonCon 2010 was held from the 3rd to the 6th of September in Atlanta, Georgia. It's the largest multimedia popular culture convention focusing on science, fiction, and fantasy, gaming, comics, literature, art, music, film, and of course, skepticism. It was the pleasure of the Skeptic Zone to once again take part in DragonCon, as we've done now for 3 years. And we pick up the story with me wandering about one of the mega hotels. I'm speaking to you from level 2 of the Hilton Hotel, Atlanta, Georgia, where it's day 3 of DragonCon, the great science fiction and fantasy convention. My vantage point here, I can overlook the lobby, the main floor area where hundreds of people are milling about. I walk over to my left a little bit. There's a sky bridge which connects this hotel to the Marriott, which is a constant stream of characters dressed up. Let's see if we can spot some. We've got 3 schoolgirls coming along, and I don't know what they're from. Maybe Harry Potter, followed by some sort of witch. and I looked over to my right, I can see somebody dressed up in the amazing steampunk outfit, which is sort of like the Wild West meets technology. A lady with bright green hair, followed by Poison Ivy from Batman with her long red hair and green ivy. We've got a sort of a New York cop complete with coffee-stained trench coat. Last night I saw Darth Vader and a couple of stormtroopers following. If I walk over past the elevator shaft with its constantly packed elevators full of all sorts of characters, sometimes it's quite a wait. More steampunk people. There's a little fairy over here with a long cape, and I'm entering one of the main subsections here. We have the Walk of Fame, which is where all the celebrities hang out to get to meet people. On my right is the I Dream of Jeannie room. Barbara Eden, Larry Hagman, and William Daly, who played the characters on I Dream of Jeannie, are all there. It's on my right. If I walk over to my left, it's the grand ballroom with all the stars, past and present. This is where the Skeptic table is, Astronomy Cast table. The Centre for Inquiry are here just outside, Surly Amy with her wonderful things. So now I'm entering the grand ballroom, as I did last year and the year before. To my right, a lot of the characters from Star Trek The Next Generation. We've got Brent Spiner, LeVar Burton, some people I don't know, lots of people I don't know. I guess they're stars of other TV shows or comic books, or I'm not sure. Peter Mayhew is here. He's the guy who played Chewbacca the Wookiee in the Star Wars series. Lots of fans coming to meet their heroes. Futurama table. There's the man over there, Billy West, who does a lot of the voices for Futurama. So I'll walk around the room. Who else is here? Virginia Hay from Farscape. She's an Australian. Fraser Hines, who played Jamie in Doctor Who. Having a bite to eat. Lots of people milling about. More Star Trek characters in this section of the room. Jonathan Frakes, who played William Riker, is here. Gil Gerard from Buck Rogers. Who else do we have? Luke Perry. More fans milling about. A couple of people from Lost in Space, the original Lost in Space. Marta Kristen and Mark Goddard, who played Major West. Marta Kristen played Judy Robinson. I don't see them, but their names are here anyway. Avery Brooks, Captain Sisko from Deep Space Nine, as I pass three people dressed up as various Doctor Who characters. This gives fans the opportunity not only to buy autographs, but simply to come up and just chat with their favourite celebrity, which is really cool. In fact, Avery Brooks, who played Captain Sisko, is simply just chatting to a couple of people. So I'll just leave the grand ballroom with all its celebrities, come back out to the chamber outside, where we've got the Skeptic table with lots of magazines, lots of Skeptic magazines and books by Michael Shermer and this sort of thing. And there's some strange dude. It's Dr. Atlantis. Hi.
Good afternoon. How do you say that in Australia?
Wacko.
Wacko!
Yeah, he's rubbing it in because I slept in today. Dr. Atlantis from the Monster Talk podcast.
That's correct. And you're from what, Skeptic Zap? Is that?
Yeah, that's close enough. How is your convention going?
It's been fantastic. It's just been very rewarding. I got stoned with Brian Dunning. No, I saw some stones with Brian Dunning. That's what it was. I'm a little confused. It's really early here. Well, it's noon, but it's early for a convention. So, yeah, it's been fun. So,
thank you, Dr. Atlantis. I better let him get back to the the queue of people who have formed to ask him questions about Skeptic magazine. What is seen? It's hard to describe. Where's Wally's over there? A couple more witches over there next to him. More steampunk. Steampunk's very popular indeed. And so many people dressed up as characters from comic books or TV shows or movies that I have never seen. I have no clue. They're wearing funny stripes and this, that, and the other. And we're all left guessing what they are or what they represent. So as I walk back across the elevator shaft, I am just now outside the Skeptics room, the Skeptrack room, which has some talks going on at the moment. Walk past those, we have other rooms for other tracks, as they call them. There's a science track, podcasting. The Skeptic room, I'm pleased to say, takes up 3 separate rooms, all sort of merged together. They took the barriers down. All right, down the escalators. Let's see what we can find down here. There's Supergirl. Supergirl. Looking rather splendid. It's about noon, so people are grabbing some lunch. Now I'm down right in the lowest section. Well, I should say a lower section. There are lower sections with gamers playing Dungeons and Dragons and all sorts of things. It's a constant parade. Dragon Con, almost 24 hours a day. Well, it was a constant parade last night at 3 o'clock in the morning. A few bleary-eyed people walking about. Well, Dragon Con for the Skeptic Zone means a chance to catch up with our colleagues, more or less, I think. Take part in panels and talks, which Rachel, Kylie and I have been doing so far, and we have our Skeptic Zone live a little bit later today. And a chance for listeners to the Skeptic Zone from the United States to come up and say hi to us, which is really, really a lot of fun. Oh, there goes a Klingon. Dragon Con is also very tiring. It's non-stop, believe me.
Hello, how are you?
And one of the fabulous people we bump into here is grinning like a Cheshire cat. It's Tracy King. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Now, you seem to be always bobbing up at these events. I can't understand why.
I'm like an apple in a barrel. I'm like a rotten apple in a barrel. I always pop it. This isn't even on, is it? This is just, you're just showing off. You're just going, look at my iPhone.
It's on.
Well, I'm here and I'm doing duties here.
Yes.
I'm not just your regular geek.
Yes. Now tell us about TAM London. This is very exciting.
It is very exciting because last year was the first one and we didn't know how that would go, and it turned out to be a huge success. So this year we've managed to kind of come back twice the size and twice as amazing, and we've got the most ridiculous lineup of speakers. There's kind of nothing else like it, I think, in skepticism. So it's because it's a bit more mainstream than usual. It's not, I mean, there are incredible skeptical speakers there, but also people who are skeptical, people like Stephen Fry and Graham Linehan, who does Father Ted and Black Books and IT Crowd. And those guys are skeptical from their output. Yes. They don't usually do skeptical events, so it's really great to be able to kind of bring mainstream speakers in.
And then TAM Australia.
Yes. What's
Wow.
that going to be like?
I can't imagine. No,
all upside down and everything.
It is. I know.
You've never heard that before, have you?
Our Australian listeners will write you naughty emails.
I love naughty emails.
We get that all the time. No, that's very exciting for everybody.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to that. And obviously Storm, which is the movie I'm producing, Tim Minchin's Storm, will be finished by then.
How exciting is that?
So we can show it in its entirety on a big screen, hopefully.
That would be fabulous.
If you've got a big enough screen for us. And,
I think we do.
Yeah, and that'll be really nice because obviously, unless you come to TAM London, where we're premiering it, then you won't be able to have seen it on a big screen. So that'll be really exciting for people, hopefully, if they like the movie, that they can see it in a kind of...
Have you been to Australia before?
No.
Ooh.
I know.
Oh.
I've always wanted to.
Now you'll see what it's like.
It better be good.
How about that, listeners?
What have you got? What have you got from me? No, I'm really excited about it. I think
free beer.
Yeah, I'm not a big drinker. Does that mean I'm not allowed in?
Sorry. Stamp your passport. Don't worry, we'll apply you a Vegemite.
Stamp it with lightweight. Yeah, I'm good with the Vegemite. No, I'm really looking forward to it. I think that it's so amazing that TAMs are spreading, and Australia, I know, has always had a huge, really a bigger skeptical output than Britain has. And I've always kind of watched footage of when Randi was in Australia. He did so much stuff there. And
he does, yeah.
The media in Australia has always struck me as being, there's quite a lot of sceptical programming. Perhaps not so much these days.
It waffles, it varies.
Right, but at least you have that. There seems to be a history of that, and so I think it's perfect for TAM.
Yeah, we've had some success, I must say.
Good.
Well, listeners who are coming to TAM Australia, you can meet Tracy in person. But before then, where can people run with their fingers on their keyboards to visit your website?
I would recommend first port of call would be stormmovie.net.
Yes.
Where our little movie, we put little bits of artwork and behind-the-scenes stuff up there every so often. And also tamlondon.org if you fancy popping along in the next 6 weeks to London to meet some luminaries and have a good time with the Brits. And also I blog for skeptic.org, which is always worth a visit.
Thank you, Tracy.
No worries.
I think they're right. Well, some of the funny characters dressed up. Oh no, they're just dressed normally, apart from the kilt, I suppose. Yeah. We've got Dr. Baka. Hello.
Hello.
And Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Now, I've been trying to explain to my listeners what Dragon Con is like. Now, look around us. It's a passing parade, isn't it? Never ending.
It is. It's 35,000 of your closest friends.
It really is, isn't it?
Yes.
And you, this is your third year for...
This is my ninth year. Ninth Dragon Con. It's fantastic.
You can't keep away,
right? Ben Radford, he's over here too.
It's Ben Radford.
Don't talk to me. Talk to these important people. I'm sipping water. It's my 16th.
What?
16th.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. You must have seen a lot of changes.
Yeah, actually. Originally, it was just in this one hotel. Way back in the day, very small.
Yeah.
It's exploded.
It certainly has. We tried to get to the Hyatt yesterday. We turned back. Too many people.
It's almost easier to go around outside the buildings.
That's how we got back.
There you go.
Indeed.
And but now we have, in the last few years, we have the skeptical element. And the room behind us is almost full, I think, which is really good. This is part of Dragon Con for the skeptics, isn't it? You go to the great panels and learn stuff, and then you hang out with like-minded people.
We've had some great conversations, too. And let me give a shout-out to Neon Teotami, Jack Scanlon, if you're out there.
For sure.
Yeah, you need to come someday.
You'd love it, Jack.
Absolutely. So, what I love about this is that we can all, there's no ego or agenda or anything like that. We can all really get together and share ideas. And
absolutely. And while you're doing that, you glance to the either side and you see the passing parade. Now, what's that character with the little, like Old West with little devil wings?
Yeah, there is two sorts of scenes around here.
There's a cowgirl.
There's a goth scene.
They're goths, are they?
Yeah, there's a goth scene. And then there's a steampunk.
And there's a steampunk lady going by.
So it's like, and
that's like Lord of the Rings just passing us by.
Yes, we have
a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything, actually.
I saw some airline pilots last night. I didn't know if they were real or part of the parade.
No, you haven't seen the, and I guess I'll be very not PC, but the sexy Korean stewardess convention that comes through here. There is like just an army, like a battalion of really, really awesome fembot looking Korean stewardesses that come through every year.
The convention starts right after this one, so if you stay around an extra day, there's a little bit.
Convention. This from Korean Air is fantastic.
I'll keep an eye out. What are these characters? Space Invaders, right?
Is it awesome?
Something like that.
You will see also quest givers from
The Sims.
The Sims. A lot of Star Trek.
Well, that's half the battle is trying to figure out just what the hell these people are. Sometimes it's obvious if it's Harry Potter, but then you're like, now you're that guy from that one movie in the 82
No matter how broadly experienced you think you are as a geek or a nerd, there's someone who's
like this guy, for example, with the eye patch and the skin-tight suit and the white tape.
Adventure Brothers. Dude, God.
See this? We've got a clone trooper from Star Wars and a tiny little Jedi, all of what, 5 years old or something? Yeah.
Yes.
A little bit of everything.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and it's just everyone being able to express themselves in a way that in normal society you just can't do it. There's no room for it. There's no room for a 9-foot-tall Optimus Prime or a Mad Hatter, right? Like there's nothing.
Wow.
There's no room for a Mad Hatter at your office job. No, like.
and I must take my hat off to all the characters who dress up and then go outside in this heat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Shows extreme dedication.
It's unseasonably cool. It's still hot, but it's unseasonably cool. Usually,
Normally
it's at
it's
least 10
close to,
degrees hotter this time of year.
Well, they're lucky, I guess, because I wouldn't want to walk down the street as a stormtrooper and how hot it can get in Atlanta.
I don't want to walk across the room. Those suits are hot.
Those are really hot. But a lot of the people who this is another aspect about Dragon Con is awesome. You have people who are professionals and people who are amateurs, and they work together, and so you get a lot of technological advancements in costume making, where they have, like, for instance, the people you see with Halo costumes or with Iron Man costumes, like, that look really good, like the real thing. They tend to have like personal air conditioning systems underneath in their suits. The reason and how they can do it. So yeah.
Some of them actually work in special effects or costuming for Hollywood. So there's amateurs and there's professionals.
Well, that makes me feel better for some of these people walking by in the full outfit of whatever.
Right.
And I saw a 1-to-1 scale Chewbacca last night.
Oh, very nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, there goes Supergirl again. She's been wandering around a lot.
Well, I'm going to go participate in another con tradition, which is waiting in line for coffee.
So, excuse me. Yes, all right, yeah.
Okay, thanks you, everyone. Thank you. It's the last day of Dragon Con, Monday, Labor Day here in the United States. And I'm here with Dr. Rachie. Dr. Rachie, we've found ourselves in one of the massive trading rooms.
We have, and it's not as busy as it was yesterday, Richard, but it's still pretty busy on the last day of Dragon Con.
There are no end of amazing paraphernalia, T-shirts, models. Look at this big kit models of Tomb Raider over there. Star Trek's everywhere, all sorts of things to buy.
Yeah, and I noticed just off to the left here, there's an author signing his books. His name's Brandon Sanderson. Who wrote some sort of sci-fi series as well. So there's all kinds of stuff happening here today.
And we just had some good luck. You came across the stand selling germs.
Yeah, this stand that sells giant microbes, which are these sort of plush, soft toys of different kinds of viruses, bacteria, and parasites, and all kinds of things.
So what's the one you got there?
Well, the one I've got here, Richard, is called the pox, but it's actually syphilis, which is Treponema pallidum. Treponema pallidum. So, it actually looks like a curled up, quite a cute snake, but
yes,
in fact it causes syphilis. Yeah.
Fascinating. We walk around the corner here, still so many people here buying things, all sorts of toys you can get from your favorite TV show. I just picked up the complete Batman series on DVD.
Yeah.
From the 1960s.
From the original master tapes, apparently, right? And
apparently.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But we also, Richard, went out with our microbes. We also bought pertussis and measles.
Oh, the set.
Yeah, we got the set. And the guy told us that if you buy 6 STDs, you get penicillin for free.
Leather seems to be quite popular, and steampunk, which is sort of Wild West meets technology. Sorts of leather and things you wrap around your head, and it's quite something. I mean, I've never seen it outside of Dragon Con, though.
What, steampunk?
Yeah.
No, I haven't either, except on stage shows and stuff like that, but it's incredibly popular at Dragon Con.
Mind you, I think you'd want a cooler climate to really wear steampunk.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the clothes here are not really designed for
Atlanta.
115 degrees Fahrenheit, yeah. So most people stay in the hotels for that reason, I think, Richard.
And look at all these patches, iron-on patches we've got here in front of us. What a collection. Superman, The Flash, Green Lantern, Smallville, lots of things I don't recognize. Oh, there's Star Trek, Captain America, Wonder Woman, Ghostbusters, The Joker. Endless array of really top quality iron-on patches, but that's just the sort of thing that you would expect here at Dragon Con. It attracts these sort of people who would love to wear these things.
Yeah, you know, what I noticed, and I observed this, I made this observation to you before, Richard, that although there's a lot of sort of sci-fi stuff here and also some, a lot of wizardry kind of things, and some of the drawings that you might see with the dragons on the top of a mountain. There's no woo here at all.
There's no woo.
Yeah.
There is no woo. Isn't that interesting?
Because
there's no tarot readers. There's no anything like that.
No, and I don't know whether I should be surprised by that or not, but some of the stuff here does lend to that sort of...
Maybe it's because we're so used to going to festivals, which it's always woo, but when we don't, it seems strange.
Yeah, but then some of the stuff here you would find at a woo festival.
Yeah,
Some of the drawings of the wolf on a hill.
Stuff,
the mystical kind of stuff. And, the statues of wizards and wolves and that sort of thing.
Well, maybe your average fantasy and science fiction fan has a better grasp of reality.
Maybe they do. Let's hope so.
And of course, one of the highlights for any skeptic coming to DragonCon is the chance to glimpse or even meet James Randi. Hi, James.
Hello there, Richard. Always good to see you.
Thank you. And this is, I think, your second DragonCon, although you were here virtually last year.
Virtually, as I was in the hospital last year with tubes down my throat, which rather inhibits their presence at conventions and things like this.
It's a remarkable event, I must say, this DragonCon. I mean, it's a walking spectacle, a walking sideshow all the time, but it is a good opportunity for skeptics to get together.
Oh, it is indeed. The fact that the skeptical presence at DragonCon is so very pervasive, and it's all over the place, rather cheers me.
And I understand there was standing room only for your talk, or sitting room only, or something.
Yes, a falling down room only, yes. And I got a standing ovation as well, so I'm very proud of that. But these people are just great. DragonCon rules as far as I'm concerned. These are, generally speaking, misfits who don't fit into society easily. Because of various problems that they might have or whatever. It's highly variable. But they do fit here, and they look forward, I'm sure, to this every year, as I do, because I'm a bit of a misfit myself.
Yes,
I suspect you are too, Richard.
In a way, I think so.
Yeah.
And no one is discriminated against here. Everyone's equal. It's fantastic.
And everybody helps everyone else. They're all very cooperative. They're lovely folks, and I'm very happy to be in this crowd.
Well, we look forward to seeing you very soon in Australia for the first amazing meeting in Australia.
How exciting.
Very
exciting.
Looking
forward to it with great enthusiasm. And I'll be rubbing shoulders with Dick Smith again. Now, what else could a guy ask?
That's the highest you can go, I think.
Exactly. I'm sure it is.
Thank you, James.
Great pleasure, Richard. Thank you for asking.
Hi, I am Gábor Raskó, President of the Hungarian Skeptic Society. This year we are organizing the 14th European Skeptics Congress. It will be held in Budapest, Hungary between 17th and 19th of September. In Europe, skeptic groups has an umbrella organization, the European Council of Skeptical Organizations, EXO. It was founded 16 years ago in Ostend, Belgium, during the 6th Annual Congress of the European Skeptical Organizations. Currently, 15 organizations are members of EXO. EXO supports a biannual congress and a symposium every other year. The first European Skeptics Congress was held 21 years ago in Bad Tölz, Germany. The last one, in 2007, was organized by the Irish Skeptical Society in Dublin. And this year the congress is held in Budapest, Hungary, between 17th and 19th of September. Check for detailed information at www.skeptics.hu. There will be more than 20 lectures about alternative medicine, the paranormal, miracles and more. Lecturers include Simon Singh, Joe Nickel, Massimo Polidoro, Willem Betts, Christopher C. French, Amardeo Sharma, Michael Heap, Tim Trechet and many more. There will be lectures about esotery and pseudoscience in nowadays Hungary and Romania. István Vágó, a devoted skeptic who hosted the TV show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in Hungary for 8 consecutive years, speaks about pseudoscience and the media. One of the main goals of the Congress is to strengthen the cooperation among the European skeptic organizations. We face international challenges. Alternative medicine proponents are aggressively lobbying at Brussels and influence European Union legislation rather effectively. Bogus products are marketed internationally and are using international references and certificates. We skeptics should also work more internationally. Register for the Congress at www.skeptics.hu. Registration fee is only €30. Of course, we cannot cover all the organizational costs from these low fees. We also accept donations. You can pay and donate through PayPal. Don't forget, 14th European Skeptics Congress in Hungary. See you in Budapest this September.
Now it's time for Dr. Rachie Reports with Dr. Rachel Dunlop.
And I'm Dr. Rachie, and here we are at the free vaccine clinic at DragonCon 2010 in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm here with Bill Atkinson. Hello, Bill. Welcome to the Skeptic Zone.
Welcome to Atlanta.
Thank you very much. Now, you are in immunisation from the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC.
That's correct.
You're an MD with a Masters in Public Health.
Yes.
And you helped to set up the vaccine clinic here at DragonCon.
Yes.
Can you tell me about your role in setting it up?
My job day to day is mainly training doctors and nurses how to give vaccines. I met Maria Walters at TAM and introduced myself, and she remembered me when she got back here and initiated the idea of doing a program like this. And I was the one who sort of knew the contacts who had the vaccine and the nurses and the skills to actually give it. So I was sort of the intermediary between the people with the idea and the people who are doing the vaccinating.
Right, so at the CDC your role is in epidemiology, immunisation epidemiology or vaccine epidemiology.
Yes, I have in the past worked in measles vaccine epidemiology, and now I primarily try to train doctors and nurses about vaccine. There's a lot of constant changes, as you know, in the vaccination realm, and so my job is to make sure that doctors and nurses in the U.S. are kept up to date on what the new recommendations are and what they should be doing.
And there's a good reason why we are here today in the vaccine clinic at DragonCon. There's currently an epidemic of whooping cough in California. Can you tell us a little bit about that? We've already had deaths of 7 or 8 young children. How bad is that epidemic at the moment?
We've seen quite a lot of pertussis in several states, California being the most notable. There have been 10, 15 deaths countrywide. What we're seeing is a lot of the cases have been in children, but they're being infected by their parents and their siblings and their babysitters. So we thought this was a good idea here because this is a lot of the age of the people that may have children at home, may have contacts with children at home, and thought this was a very fertile area, and likely a lot of these kids have not had pertussis vaccine before, or at least recently.
And the thing is, with the pertussis vaccine, it wears off after a number of years, right? So as an adult, you need to get a booster because you can be a carrier, but then you can pass it on to young children who are particularly susceptible. Is that right?
Absolutely correct. Probably most of us got our last dose of pertussis vaccine when we were 5 or 6, and it's only been since 2005 that we've had this new vaccine we could give to adolescents and adults. So it's a relatively new vaccine, and we hope it will make a big difference in pertussis both in the U.S. and elsewhere as well.
So who's the most susceptible to pertussis? We're talking about young kids, but we're also talking about people with immune suppression, are we? Who are the people that are most at risk?
The most, really anybody can be infected who hasn't been vaccinated recently. Adults, because of the size of our airways, tend to have fewer severe symptoms. They could be pretty sick, but it's mostly the really young children who have the most severe disease because their airways are very tiny and because they likely have not had all their doses of their pediatric childhood vaccine series yet. So we worry most about children. That's most likely to die, most likely to have very severe illness. But really any of us can cough it on anybody else if we haven't had a vaccine within a few years.
And how is it transmitted?
Transmitted by droplets, by respiratory droplets. When people cough, sneeze, talk, anything. It's a very efficiently transmitted bacteria, and it is very easily transmitted from person to person.
So what role do you think the low levels of vaccination are having in this epidemic, if any? Because I know that some people are now choosing not to vaccinate their children for all sorts of reasons, but some of this is to do with the anti-vax movement getting quite active in America. We have the same problem in Australia. Do you think that's contributed at all to these recent outbreaks?
It probably does. I think probably the bigger problem. That tends to be a fairly small proportion, except they tend to cluster together. Folks who haven't been vaccinated, we think probably in the U.S. it's not more than 1 or 2% of people, but in some areas it can be much, much higher than that because they sort of have communities, if you will. And but the biggest problem, I think, right now is the fact that most adults and adolescents have not had a dose of pertussis vaccine for so long. So the kind of vaccine we're doing here is exactly, I think, what we need to do to raise the level of immunity in the population and help stomp out this outbreak we're having now.
So what's the response been like here in the clinic at DragonCon?
It's been very good. We didn't really know what was going to happen. This is the first time this has been tried, but we are probably going to use all our vaccine today. We came with 100 doses yesterday, gave almost all of them, came with more than 100 today, and it looks like we're going to probably give out all those too. So it's actually been quite successful since we didn't really know what to suspect, but the uptake has been very good.
Yeah.
So we're very happy with the way it's turned out.
And so what kind of people have you been vaccinating? Are you talking about the people that you really want to target, which is the adolescents and the young parents, kind of? What's the sort of demographic that's been coming in? It looks like about half men and women, about half of each, and we have seen mostly, we haven't actually crunched the numbers all yet, but it looks like it's been people in their 30s, 20s, 30s, and 40s. It's who's exactly the folks that we were hoping to be able to vaccinate while we were here. So I'm fascinated by this, by the fact that you can actually do this, Bill, because in Australia I don't know if it's that common that you can kind of, this was set up by the Skeptics, as you said, Maria Walters, and they rented out a shop front and for the weekend and got you guys on board. And in terms of liability and health issues and stuff, that's already in place in America to do that sort of thing, is it?
It is. We do a lot of that in public health in the United States, and fortunately the state of Georgia and one of the local county health departments really have a lot of experience doing remote immunization operations. They had a protocol set up. They had the equipment and the people who are willing to come down and spend their weekend down here and volunteer. So we actually have a very good infrastructure. Some places are better at doing that than others. We got lucky. We have a very good group here in the Atlanta area that was able to come out and do this for us. And you see them sitting right back there.
They're behind us now.
And they've been busy all day.
They're very busy at the moment, but I noticed behind us also there's free HIV testing here. How do you conduct that?
It's actually a saliva test for antibodies, and that was kind of an afterthought. It turns out that the folks doing the HIV testing work in the same office as the nurses back there doing the vaccinating. So it was word of mouth, again, kind of right place, right time. Yeah. They said, well, we're going down. Would you like to come with us? And there may be some high-risk folks there. Lots of tattoos, lots of things, and they thought, good opportunity to do this. And really, they've had a good response, even though we didn't really advertise this at all. They just kind of came and set up shop, and we just kind of let it run.
So what about the counselling sort of aspect of the HIV testing? Do you get a result right here, or do you send that test away and then...
It's done it takes 20 minutes.
Right.
It's all done right on the spot. We ask the person to come back. We won't email it or anything. We want them to come back and be able to counsel them as to what the results mean. Mm-hmm. We, interestingly, are using the dressing rooms for our little counseling offices.
Oh, I see,
you might have seen people going in and out of those little rooms. This was a former clothing store.
I see,
and they've been using the dressing rooms as the counseling rooms. So,
right, so the results for the HIV are given in the dressing room? And here. Okay.
Right here, 20 minutes.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much, Bill, for joining us today.
You're very welcome.
I think this is a fantastic initiative. I don't know if we have anything like this in Australia. I wish we could have something like this. I don't know if you know, but we've had measles outbreaks recently, and we've had Australia-wide, we've had pertussis epidemics as well. So we have similar problems to America in that sense, and I think this is a great thing to do.
Great.
Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
And now I'm talking to Brian Anders. Hello, Brian.
Hello. And
also Matt Lowry. Hi, Matt. How are you? Now, Matt, you are involved setting up the free vaccine clinic. Tell me, what was your role in setting this up?
Brian and I are here as representatives for the Women Thinking Free Foundation, and that's a group that has gotten started within the last few months to promote skepticism and critical thinking among young parents, young women, and so on and so forth. And we thought, what better way to help out at DragonCon than to get this vaccination clinic working. My specific role, besides being behind the counter, being hands-on and helping out, I helped write the copy for our brochure.
Now this is really cute. Can you just hold that up again? So this is the logo for the clinic.
Yeah,
Hug me, I'm vaccinated.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that. That was Elise Anders' idea, or who was it? Was it Amy?
Certainly Amy came up with the actual logo for the vaccination.
A lot of us were involved in writing the copy for this and so on. Then we are here just basically being present as representatives of the Women Thinking Free Foundation and helping answer people's questions and getting literature handed out and so on. We're hoping to make this a regular thing at DragonCon.
Wow. So, Brian, your lovely wife, Elise, is not able to be here this weekend because you've just had another baby, haven't you?
Yes.
And because of the risk of pertussis, she wasn't able to come. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Our youngest daughter, Delaney, is 3 months old, and she felt it was in her best interest not to bring her into a situation where she's exposed to a lot of people. We've actually been very cautious with how we're letting her be exposed to general population, and even family-wise, we're keeping it to smaller family events so that she's not catching anything. So Elise, this has been her mission for about 2 years. She's been trying to launch the whole Hug Me campaign, and it finally all came together thanks to just the last year of success we've had with the Women Thinking Free Foundation.
Yeah. It's such a fantastic idea, and so obviously you've got the CDC involved. You guys aren't giving the vaccinations, right? We've got qualified health professionals on site to do this. Yeah. So how did you get them involved?
Well, actually, it was Maria Walters.
That was Maria.
Yeah, Maria Walters from Skeptic and Elise know each other very well. So when we really started to get rolling with the idea, Elise talked to Maria, and since Maria lives here in Atlanta, she had contacts with the CDC, and she talked to Bill and some other people, and they got it all hooked up. So that's how it worked, yeah.
So I believe you're probably going to run out of vaccines today. Bill says he's bought up 100 for today, and they've already used something like 85. So that's good.
That's good news.
That's very good
and they
news.
said they can run and go get more, and that would be a good problem to have. That would be awesome, because it would exceed our expectations. I mean, this is just...
He was explaining to us yesterday that in events like this, it's not uncommon to walk away with nobody getting vaccinated. And for
really?
Really? And for the fact that we are using up our supply is just astounding. So it's a credit to not just the people who work in the foundation in Chicago, but to just getting the word out and all the skeptics coming together and just spreading the word and helping us launch this.
It's been absolutely wonderful. We've gotten a huge amount of support from just all kinds of folks to get the word out about this, and it's been wonderful.
But it's true that there's not just skeptics here, right? I mean, there's something like 50,000 people here, and I guess you're getting people coming through the door who you don't know all of them. There's just strangers as well, isn't it?
We've had a lot of people who have just been complete strangers coming in because they've heard by word of mouth, or they've seen the posters, or they've seen the stickers, and that's what we want. We want to get as many people to come as possible.
I think the posters that Jill Powell put together have been a huge influence on. We've had people just standing out there reading them, and I think it's the pictures that are drawing them in. And it was just a fantastic combination in helping launch this.
Now, the pictures are of sort of characters from science fiction, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we have Princess Leia, Dr. McCoy, Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica. And the really great thing about this is even as they walk by, even if they do not come in to get the vaccination, they're stopping and they're reading this, so they're still getting the information. They're still learning that, wow, whooping cough is coming back and it could be a really serious thing. Maybe I should go talk to my doctor.
Yeah.
So it's spreading the word in more ways than just getting some people to come in here for the shot.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much, Brian and Matt, for joining us today on the Skeptic Zone. And I think this is a wonderful initiative, and I wish you all success in future vaccine clinics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel.
This is Desiree Schell, host of Skeptically Speaking. Check out our website at skepticallyspeaking.com and listen to us live on CJSR 88.5 FM in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I now return you to the Skeptic Zone.
Dr. Phil Plait, PhD, is no stranger to the Skeptic Zone or fans of skepticism worldwide. He is a renowned astronomer, and now he stars in his own TV series, Phil Plait's Bad Universe. I'm sitting here in Bad Astronomy Central, gazing over to the screen of Dr. Phil Plait with a beautiful picture, or a moody picture, you were saying, of Saturn, Phil.
Yeah, it's as we're speaking, there was a new picture released. There are pictures released all the time from Saturn. Carolyn Porco, who is the team leader for the Cassini imaging, the probe that's orbiting Saturn right now, is on Twitter, and she will occasionally say, "Oh, take a look at this. Here's a nice picture of Titan," or "Here's a picture of the rings," or whatever. And she said, "Here's an incredible picture of Saturn's rings with 4 moons." And I clicked on it, and it's this really beautiful wide shot of a crescent Saturn, which we can't see from the Earth because you have to be off to the side, and the Earth is always between Saturn and the Sun because we're really close to the Sun. Saturn's really far away. We can't get off to Saturn's side here on Earth. You have to send a space probe to do that. And so you've got this beautiful crescent Saturn, and it was taken with a filter that picks out methane in the atmosphere of the planet, and it makes the picture look a little funny. And I remember I was this morning when Carolyn tweeted the image, and I looked at it, and I was thinking, oh, isn't that interesting? The picture's shadow is a little weird. Within a minute, somebody had tweeted me and said, "Why does the shadow look weird?" And I thought, well, maybe I should look into this for a second.
The shadow is actually seems to be it's buckled or dipping at the equator.
Instead, you know, when you look at a crescent moon, the curved shadow, what you're seeing is the line between day and night on the moon.
Yeah.
It's the same on Saturn, and you expect that to be a nice smooth curve because the planet is roughly a sphere, and it's not. Right in the middle, there's a huge dip, and it's almost like a very broad, smooth M on its side. It's hard to explain.
It's hard to explain. Yeah.
You'd have to see the picture. But I kind of figured right away that must have to do with the methane in the atmosphere, and it absorbs light, and so you're seeing things a little bit differently. And in fact, it's the same thing on the moon. When you look at the terminator, this line between day and night on the moon, it looks smooth to your eye, but you pull out a pair of binoculars or a telescope, and it's bumpy and wiggly because the moon isn't a perfect sphere. It's got craters and mountains and things that break up that. So you can imagine at sunset, as you're standing on the ground, the sun might already be set. But if you're standing on a mountaintop, you're up higher, you can still see the sun. So irregularities in the surface change the shadow, and that's what's going on here. I'm guessing that we're seeing cloud tops at different heights above Saturn's average size, and some of them are still catching sunlight, so some aren't, screwing up the crescent.
But that effect there is dramatic. Now, if people are sitting by their computers at the moment, Phil, what is this site you're using to study all these pictures?
Well, if you just look for Carolyn Porco, Porco, on the web, you'll find her. But this is the Cassini raw data database. It's just images that they come down from the machine, from the space probe. They stick them right in a database. And it's saturn.jpl.nasa.gov. So Saturn, the planet, JPL is Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and then NASA.gov. And you'll see that there is a raw image archive, and you can go in there and type, show me wide-angle shots of Saturn taken on, for example, in this case, if you set the search parameters for July 17th, 2010, and you look for wide-angle shots of Saturn, bam, these will come up.
You'll see it.
And you'll see that some of them are very odd-looking, and they have different filters, which are different. They respond differently to methane. Some of them, methane absorbs a little bit of light in that color. Some of it absorbs a huge amount. And the one we're looking at here is where methane is really strongly absorbing, and so you get these really dramatic features on the planet's, well, the cloud tops. I was going to say the surface, but it's a big old gas giant planet.
Yeah,
you're not seeing the surface. And you really see the storm bands and all that stuff. It's totally beautiful.
I can definitely see a wonderful, just to the right of the ring there, this incredible dip, which must be a gigantic storm right near the equator.
Something going on. I actually don't understand how all that stuff works. I'm not a planetary scientist.
Right.
And so it's funny, I'll post these pictures. And this one's beautiful. You can see Titan, you can see the moon Tethys in there, or Tethys, I don't know how to pronounce all these. It causes a lot of confusion, all these words, all these Greek moon names and everything. But I'll post something. I posted something the other day saying, "Oh, look at this picture of the rings, and you can't really see what's going on here." And then I got an email from a friend that says, "Oh, actually, you can see what's going on here if you're trained to do it." So when it comes to these pictures, I'm a scientist, and I can puzzle a few things out. But when it comes to the details, I don't know what's going on.
It's a good argument. It's a good case that scientists need to specialize. Because
absolutely.
Obviously you're a specialist in your field, but once you see something like this, which isn't quite your field, you have to run to the people who know more about it.
Sure, and there are times I don't, and then, I wind up saying something that's wrong, and I get corrected. And that's happened several times with Saturn. Things I thought I knew, and I was totally wrong. Right. And it's funny, a lot of these pictures, I know how digital imagery works. I did that for Hubble for a decade. These different filters that they use. I know how that works really well. So when I saw the picture, I knew almost right away what was going on. I just had to confirm it, and I did.
We did, yeah. Well, you confirmed it right when I was sitting here. You went for another shot of another angle of the planet, and you could confirm more or less that's what was going on.
Well, I made a prediction. I said, if this is caused by methane absorption, then there's another filter which shows that more strongly. We should see the feature even more obviously. Pop that up, and that's what we're looking at now. And now that dip in the middle of the crescent is incredibly obvious. So my prediction was supported, and I don't know if I'm right, but it lends credence to the fact that I was right, and this is due to methane.
It's something you can explore from here on in.
Right, and I would have to figure out. Well, you were the one who said you should look at it at different. What it would look like at a different filter, and I thought, well, sure.
Yeah.
And so there are other ways we could try to work this out, but the best way in this case would be to talk to an expert. Yeah. I hate to argue from authority, but on the other hand, Carolyn or my friend Emily Lakdawala, who is with the Planetary Society, a very big public outreach group about planetary exploration, she knows all this stuff too. And she's the one who corrected me on my post the other day. She's writing something up today, I think, about it. But there's a reason these people are experts, right? They know what they're talking about, and they may be wrong too, but, statistically speaking, they're wrong a lot less than I am when it comes to this.
I find it quite interesting sometimes to consider what's available to the average schmo like me in Australia, or an expert in the field like you sitting here in Bad Astronomy Central. We all have access.
I have to say, no, come on. By Bad Astronomy Central, I mean, you're sitting in my home office. I'm still wearing my pajama bottoms.
Oh, you've just spoiled the illusion for the listeners now.
Yeah, you can hear the computers clicking away in the background. Actually, I'm making sure my dog isn't scratching at the door and ruining the interview.
So listeners have this image of men in behind glass screens and white lab coats. You could call on, but no, honestly,
there's a picture of Stewie from Family Guy on the wall, that kind of thing. Yeah, okay.
But you can sit there, and I can sit in Australia, and all our listeners can do the same thing. Go to this website and say, "Oh, I wonder what Saturn would look like from this angle."
Right?
Do you ever pinch yourself and thinking, "My goodness me"?
Yeah.
What's available to everybody on the planet who has a half-decent internet connection?
It's crazy. And you can do this with Mars, the rovers, the data's public. If you're looking at Hubble images, if they're older than a year, there's a database called MAST. It's the something archive space... MAST. If you look at MAST and Hubble, M-A-S-T...
You'll find it.
You'll find the archive, and you can go in there and type spiral galaxy, and and find 100 raw images of spiral galaxies from Hubble. It's incredible.
But 10 years ago or 20 years ago, this would have been fantasy.
Just 20 years ago,
20 years ago, okay.
Yeah, 10 years ago when I was, it's 2010, so this would have been 2000. Yeah, I'd already been working on Hubble for years, 10 years ago. And in 96, when our camera, we finished building it, it launched in 97. So that archive was there were already public data even in the mid-90s.
Oh, really? Wow,
yeah, from Hubble that you could look up and do your own processing and all that. It was incredible.
Do you happen to know, because of the widespread availability of this information, are there people sitting in their armchairs making interesting discoveries?
Absolutely. And what's really funny is that it's a coincidence that you would ask this right now.
Oh, yeah.
But a press release came out like an hour ago.
I was still in bed an hour ago.
Yeah, well, I was just reading my email, and there are these objects. Well, I need to back up. There's a guy named Chris Lintott, who is an astronomer in England, and he does the sky at night with a very famous BBC production. And
so Patrick Moore doesn't do that anymore?
He does.
He does.
And Chris is his co-host.
I see.
And so Chris is a really good astronomer. He's a nice guy. Known him for a few years. And he and a few other people started this idea called Galaxy Zoo, where there's a survey of the sky that was taken years ago, and all that data is online. And so they, of course, data is plural, so all those data are online. Whatever. Astronomers use data plural and singular. It's grammar people who get all upset about it, and I don't care. But all of those images, all the spectra are online. You can grab them. So what they did is they wrote software that finds galaxies in the data, and then you can sign up to register. It's called Galaxy Zoo. You can find it online easily. And then you, after a brief training period where you click on a few galaxy pictures and say, this is a spiral, it's rotating clockwise. Do you say anti-clockwise in Australia or counterclockwise?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
We say counterclockwise in America. In England, it's anti-clockwise. And this is an elliptical, it's an irregular. It trains you and tests you to make sure you know what you're doing, and then lets you go. And you can sit there and classify galaxy after galaxy after galaxy. It's hard for computers to do this. It's easy for humans to do it. And you're crowdsourcing it. The more people doing it, the more classifications you have. And they tested it on tens of thousands of galaxies. It's incredible. Their statistics are really good. And what they found is that people are really good at classifying galaxies with very little training.
And they're not going to run out of galaxies to classify.
No, there are millions and millions and millions. I've classified, and it's addicting. I've classified, I don't even know how many hundreds. You just sit down and start doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just, oh my God, it's been 8 hours and I'm hungry and my dog is peed on the carpet. I need to get out. It's really easy to get lost doing it.
You're given a region to work on. Is that how?
I don't know how they pick the galaxies. Actually,
Yeah.
they have some software algorithm that they use to do all this. And once you classify it, it goes into a database with the other classifications, and it checks and it says, "Wow, 75 people have looked at this, and 74 say it's anti-clockwise, and one guy says it's clockwise." Can throw the clockwise out. Right. So it does all that, and people have found stuff in this data that you can't. That one person looking at the data never would have seen. And there was a woman, Brian May,
the guitarist
from Queen.
Yeah,
Brian May, the guitarist from Queen, wrote "We Will Rock You" and "We Are the Champions."
Yeah.
I mean, relatively famous guy.
Relatively famous.
Was an astronomer, and then he left school to join some rock band, which worked out fairly well for him, I suppose. And then he just got his PhD recently, and so he does some public outreach for astronomy. He talks about it, he writes about it sometimes. So he mentioned Galaxy Zoo. He works with Chris Lintott and Patrick Moore. They do things together. They wrote a book together, and so he mentioned it. Some young woman in Denmark. Oh, I don't remember. Her name is Hani or Hanny. I don't know how she pronounces her name, but she found this sort of weird green smudgy thing next to a galaxy, which they were calling Hanny's object, which in Dutch is Hanny's voorwerp. And so that's what they're calling it. And it turns out nobody knew what it was. They wound up using Hubble to look at it. Some professional astronomers got involved. And they found it's a cloud of gas that's being lit up by a nearby quasar. Wow. So there's this black hole a gazillion light years away that's sucking down material. That material gets hot and glows, and that glow is bright enough to have lit up this gas cloud. It's like 100,000 light years away. It looks like it's just floating out there in space, and she discovered it. It's her object.
I was thinking of the old Star Trek when you were mentioning this strange green blob in space, and they're not sure where it was.
Yeah, and it winds up being a space amoeba, or it takes over Scotty, or what else does it do?
Yeah.
And so there was what I was talking about earlier. There was a press release. Yeah. A lot of these Galaxy Zoo people were finding these compact green disc-like objects, and they were calling them green pea galaxies, and nobody knew what they were. And now there was a press release that came out literally an hour ago that says that these are compact galaxies, are about 1 billion light years away, 1 billion with a B, so 1,000 million light years away, and they are deficient in heavy elements. They got plenty of hydrogen and helium, but very little iron, very little carbon, oxygen, which is what's made. Those are made inside of stars that then blow them out into the galaxy through winds, or they explode and like a supernova. And evidently, these galaxies just are metal, what astronomers call metals. They're metal deficient. And when you look at the spectrum of them, that makes them look green. And it's a new type of galaxy. Well, not a new type of galaxy. It's just it's a very brief phase in a galaxy's life that had never been seen before. Because it's just like if you were to go out on the street and take a bunch of pictures, it would be very rare for you to see a baby 1 day old. But if you kept taking pictures, eventually you will see those rare instances. And that's what happened here. This is a very brief moment in a galaxy's life, and not in every galaxy. But if you take enough pictures, eventually you see it. And they found dozens of these things, and now they've got a published paper.
Man, that would
citizen science, baby.
Makes your mind race when you start to speculate. Well, what sort of life would this slightly different sort of galaxy produce? And no wonder there's a wealth of information for writers in science fiction.
Oh yeah. Well, back then these galaxies probably don't have many planets because you need iron and calcium and silicon and everything to make planets. At least planets like the Earth.
Yeah. Well,
so
it's life, Jim, but not as we know it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. You could make Jupiters, gas giants, and stuff out of hydrogen and helium, but that's about it. But that was 1 billion years ago, so who knows what's going on now in these galaxies.
There's some dude sitting on one of those planets looking at us saying, well, that's so strange looking.
Yeah, what does our galaxy look like 1 billion years ago? Yeah. Probably pretty much like it does now. But
yes, yeah.
But, there are differences. 1 billion years is a long time. It's 10% of a galaxy's life, so things change. And look, and citizens found that. And you know what? Yeah. Citizens have looked at pictures of Saturn, of Mars, of the Earth, of the Moon, and there's Moon Zoo now along with Galaxy Zoo. They're working on one for the Sun.
Didn't somebody recently observe from Australia an impact on Jupiter?
Yeah, Anthony Wesley is an Australian amateur astronomer, and he detected. Actually, I think he's detected two. I can't remember. I can't remember who got the discovery pictures. Last year in July, there was an impact on Jupiter, and I remember it came out, and I looked at it and went, well, maybe it's just a little storm. It's just a black spot. And then a couple of days later, they observed it with a big infrared telescope, and it was like this big glowing hotspot on Jupiter. It's like, holy crap, no, Jupiter got hit. And then again, just a few weeks ago, Jupiter's been hit twice this year, and it's been caught by amateur astronomers. Both times, they were taking video using basically off-the-shelf equipment, telescopes you would buy from the back of a magazine. I mean, these are nice, fancy telescopes, but, they're not professional, 5-meter mirror telescopes. These are your 40-centimeter telescopes, are smaller. And they had a video hooked up. And you see a flash of light on Jupiter. And it could be anything. It could be a defect in the camera. It could be this, could be that. But then another one came up from another astronomer in Japan. I think it was Japan. You can look all this up. I wrote about it when it happened a few months ago, confirming it. And so Jupiter's been hit twice. Both times they've pointed bigger telescopes and seen nothing. So whatever this thing was, it just, it exploded in Jupiter's atmosphere, and then that was it. But last year's left a big impact. And then, of course, there was Shoemaker Levy 9 in 1994.
Well remember that.
This comet that hit Jupiter over and over again. It broke up into pieces and slammed it.
They named all the pieces.
Yeah, A through, whatever letter. And heck, amateur astronomers are doing this now because amateur astronomers have good equipment. And they can discover stuff like this.
And not only that, it's the sheer number of people who at any given time have got their equipment trained on, say, Jupiter.
Yeah, Jupiter is being observed, essentially 24 hours a day when it's in a position like it is now, where it's up all night. So right now, it's what 9:30 a.m. in Boulder. So it's like 2 a.m. roughly in Australia. So right now the sun is up here, but in Australia, for somebody, Jupiter's overhead. They can be observing it. When it sets there, it's rising here.
Yeah.
So people can observe it all the time. You're bound to see it. But you can't see anything if nothing's happening. So what this has taught us is that since 1994, we've seen 4 separate impact events, 3 of which have happened in the past year. And when you start seeing more of something as time goes on, you start to think, is it happening more often? Probably not. But what else has changed is that the equipment's getting better. And you can buy video cameras for cheap. Yeah. You can go to some store and for $200 buy a video camera that you can hook onto your telescope. People are doing that now, and they're catching this stuff. And so they're still missing a lot. You have to look through hours of videotape to see it. So you still have to coincidentally catch it. But the point here is that citizen science is taking off, and especially in astronomy. It's happening in other fields too, but in astronomy, sky's the limit. The sky's not the limit in this case. But we're going to see more of this. We're going to see impacts on the moon. We know that meteorites hit the moon. We've got videotape of that, but it's very rare. We're going to start seeing more of that. And the more you see, the better your statistical database gets. And then at some point, instead of this being a super rare event that you don't know that much about, suddenly you've got thousands of cases, and you can start doing statistics. what's the average size of an object? What's the average speed when it's hitting? Can you tell the difference between a chunk of ice and a chunk of rock and a chunk of metal hitting the surface of another world? And this is all important stuff. If we're going to start traveling to other planets, we need to know what's out there. And if it turns out that there's way too much debris out there and we build a big ship, we're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, deflect the shields up. I keep making
exactly.
Star Trek references.
This is real science and real exploration.
This is a great segue, of course, talking about dangers from space. Last time we interviewed you, you weren't at liberty to say too much. Too much about, of course, your television show, which I didn't even know was called this, Bad Universe, which aired just the other week.
It's actually Phil Plait's Bad Universe.
Oh, excuse me.
That was not my idea. I didn't object too strenuously when they suggested that. But in fact, the reason I went for it, it's awfully self-serving even for me to have my name in a TV show title. But in fact, I liked it because the show is supposed to be personal. It's not one of these interviewing scientists where they're in a hotel room with a splash of light behind them and they're looking off to the side of the camera. Yeah. I wanted to make a TV show where I'm involved.
And you address the camera, don't you?
Oh, yeah,
yeah. Explaining things.
Yeah, I'm talking to the audience. It's like, here, look at this. Yeah. Or I'm having fun.
Yeah.
Running around, interviewing people. We blow a lot of stuff up. Maybe we blow up too much stuff in the first episode.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, the first episode is about asteroid impacts. Yeah. And I had some friends of mine who do asteroid stuff, and they're like, really? Did you have to have that many explosions? And I said, well, yeah, because we were showing... first of all, what an impact is like, and you need a big bomb for that. And then it turns out that to push these things out of the way, we're talking about blowing up nuclear weapons near them or smacking them at high speed with what are called kinetic impactors.
We're talking about asteroids and comets and other potentially devastating objects from space that could impact with the Earth.
You see a rock 300 meters across and it's going to hit the Earth, and what do? Well, you got to keep it from hitting. Yes. And it's hard to move the Earth out of the way.
You go into the basement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you run is what you do, or you panic. But we want to push these things out of the way. And how do you do that? So you can blow up a bomb near them, or you can impact them with a space probe at high speed. And it's like if you can imagine if somebody's standing in the middle of the road and a car is coming, what do? You run and grab them and push them out of the way, and that's kind of what we're doing here. You hit the asteroid with a space probe, and it impacts a little bit of momentum, gives it momentum, and moves it in a different direction.
In this case, if the car's coming for the person, you run and push the person.
But it's sort of the opposite of what we're talking about.
You push the car.
But it's all relative, right? I mean, the Earth is moving, the asteroid's moving, your spaceship's moving, so whatever frame of reference, take your pick. But we're talking about basically explosions. So we blow a lot of stuff up in the episode, including, sadly, Sydney.
Oh yeah. Now I must tell you a story about this. Dr. Rachie and I, flying out to DragonCon the other week, we're sitting in the plane. They haven't shut the doors yet. We're waiting to taxi out to our departure at Sydney Airport, and we're looking at our tweets and a few last-minute emails, and suddenly we're getting all these tweets. Richard and Rachel, get out of Sydney now! Get out! What? Sydney's being destroyed by asteroids and comets. And it wasn't until I was visiting Brian Dunning the next day, and we watched it, and we were just rolling on the floor, watching Sydney get creamed again and again and again. But it was so well done.
I have so many. Well, the special effects crew are really good in the show, and they did some astonishing stuff. And we blew up Sydney, and when I was talking with the producer who was running the show basically and making it, he's the person who's sort of in charge of everything, and he and I worked together very closely, of course, on the science and the narrative of all this. And he said, we're going to do Sydney, and I said, well, why Sydney? I love Sydney. I was in Sydney in 2004. Yeah. For the Skeptics Conference, and I had a terrific time there, and I felt bad, It's like, oh, we're blowing up the Opera House. I went to the Opera House with Richard. We walked all over Sydney, went to the Botanical Gardens and everything. And he said, well, we need a major city. Because the odds of a major city getting hit by a big asteroid are
slim.
Really slim. Even how big is Sydney? Even if it's 30 kilometers across, the planet is 100 million square kilometers, something crazy like that. So the real odds are low. But you want something visually interesting for somebody. If it impacts over the ocean, it's not that interesting. And we needed a big city with a major landmark, something iconic that you would recognize instantly. And Paris has the Eiffel Tower, And New York has the Statue of
But that's
Liberty,
been done,
Washington
hasn't it?
Monument. They've been done over and over again.
Yeah.
Every movie blows up the Golden Gate Bridge. So we went international, and we went with Sydney, and I was like, well, all right. But I'm still getting tweets from people saying, what do you have against Sydney?
Really? Because
you guys don't send me enough minties. That's what I have against Sydney.
That's it.
Yeah.
Send Phil Minty. No, but apart from the fact that I've seen things I know very well getting completely smashed and destroyed, it did serve you well because a little bit later in the episode where you use mock-ups of the bridge in the Opera House, when you
that was a bit of fun. I mean, we built them to scale, but they were just basically cut out of wood.
Cardboard.
But it was actually plywood.
Plywood.
It might look like cardboard in the explosion.
It was heavy, wasn't it?
But we blew up.
Yeah.
I mean, we blew up 7,500 pounds of what's called an ANFO. It's ammonium nitrate fuel oil mix.
Wow.
And it's a incredibly explosive chemical compound it's actually some terrorists have used it with the Oklahoma City bombing a few years back.
Yes.
They used that same mix, and it was the equivalent of 3,000 pounds, a ton and a half. 1,500 kilos of TNT, and it was a huge explosion. Huge.
You pressed the button on that?
I actually pulled the trigger on that. I didn't think he was going to let me, and I asked, and it was a running joke up to that point that I would ask the explosives guy, "Can I pull the trigger?" And they'd say, "No, it's too dangerous. No." But this guy's like, "Yeah, sure. What do I care?" I'm like, all right, and it was amazing. And it did a huge amount of devastation. Because the crater was very realistic.
It was stunning. It was huge.
Well, I mean, it's a real crater. We blew up.
Yeah.
You know,
and you could see the shockwave on the slow motion replay.
Yeah.
That was astonishing.
Yeah, it did a huge amount of damage. And the debris field, the way the crater was shaped, everything, just like an asteroid impact. It was perfect.
And we're really whetting the appetite of the listeners out there who haven't seen your show.
Right.
And lucky people in Canada. I hear that's going to be played in Canada.
Right. It's a Discovery Channel show. The way we did it is it's a 3-part. You could call it a pilot. We made a 3-part show. The first one's about asteroid impacts. The next two, I don't know if I'm allowed to actually say in public what they're about. But I'll let you. You'll see soon enough. You'll see it soon enough. It's based on my book Death from the Skies, so you can kind of look through the book and see it. And it aired on Discovery Channel here in the States a couple of weeks ago. It's going to air on October... October 23rd? Now I can't remember. In October in Canada.
Yeah.
And I just wrote about it, but now I can't remember the date.
But people in Canada can certainly run to their Discovery website.
Right, Discovery Canada. Yeah. And it's going to show on Discovery Asia in November. And actually, do you get Discovery Asia in Australia?
Our listeners may know. I don't. I don't get the Discovery Channel. But
you'll get email.
Listeners in Australia, I've seen the show, and I'm going to see it again. I'm going to get as many people as I can to see it. It's fabulous.
Thank you.
Seriously, it's not because I'm sitting in your house drinking your coffee, playing with your dogs.
Speaking of which, I'll get another sip here. Stay awake for my own interview.
It's Rachel and I watched it with Brian and Lisa Dunning, and we were just enthralled, and we were laughing when Sydney was getting creamed, and we were admiring the effects and the science behind it. And then
there's some silliness and some serious.
There's some silliness. At one stage, Rachel and I got up to the TV and we froze a picture of you, and we're both like praying, "Save us, Phil!
Right.
Save Sydney!" But listeners in Australia, look, if it's not coming up right, email the Discovery Channel.
Sure,
because it is.
Do you have Discovery Australia? Is there a separate?
Honestly, we probably do. Yeah. But listeners in Australia who get that would certainly know about it. It's called Bad Universe, and write in demanding.
Be nice.
Be nice.
And that does work, because what happened was when it aired here in the States, I was live tweeting it, the East Coast feed, which was on at a certain time, and I was sitting there watching it and tweeting about it, and I was getting so many people in Canada saying, "When do we get to see it?" And I didn't know, so I asked my the PR person at Discovery Channel and said, "When's it airing in Canada?" And she said, "Well, look, they're their own separate channel. You know, we don't dictate to them when they get to what or when they show stuff. So ask them." So I basically tweeted to Discovery Channel Canada and said, "What's going on?" And a bunch of people sent nice tweets, using the at Discovery Canada. And sure enough, Discovery Canada picked it up because they got enough outcry. That's the word, not the right word to use. It's it's
by
not like that,
but
by public demand, right? They got hundreds of tweets and emails from people saying we wanted to see this, and so they're running it.
So Twitter sort of came to the rescue a little bit.
It's the new paradigm of user demanding content, and so if you tweet to a channel and say, I want to see this, especially if it's Discovery Channel, because they're all under the same umbrella of Discovery Communications Network, they can talk to each other. Maybe you can't get Firefly second season, but maybe you can get this show. Yeah. And if it's popular enough, maybe the Discovery Channel will pick it up as a full-fledged series. I have not heard from the network yet. I'm hoping they will, of course. I want to turn this into a whole show where we can analyze the science of all sorts of things, not just astronomy.
It would be great. I'd love to sit down every week and watch Bad Universe.
Thanks.
Right after Mythbusters.
Yeah, and there's a similarity to Mythbusters, but we're trying to make it different. The first episode has a lot of explosions. But we don't have quite so many in the next episodes. But I'd love to make it. It was a lot of work.
Oh yeah,
but it is a lot of fun, and it's something I wanted to do my whole life, especially over the past 10 or 12 years. And it's really, really nice to be able to go out and have the backing of an actual network and a production company saying, what do you want to make a show about? Like, wow, yeah. And at one point, actually, there was an executive who said, what other ideas? She was totally honest about this. She just didn't know. She said, "Is there, what else could you talk about if this were to get picked up as a series?" And I was like, "Are you kidding?" And I was like, bam, 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 bam. I was listing all these things. And she was kind of shell-shocked. Her eyes got wide. She's like, oh, well. And I could see her exchanging glances with this other guy. Like, oh, I see. Maybe there are other topics we could do in a show like this. Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
So we'll see. I have no idea what they're going to do. It's a television. They maybe would want to replace me with some 16-year-old girl for all I know, but we'll see what happens.
With a bald head and a beard.
Yeah, I know. They just make these random decisions, so there are other hosts out there. Who are doing shows similar to this. There's Neil Tyson and Michio Kaku, and you know what? Come to think of it, I was thinking about this the other day. There are shows like this out there, not with my take on it, but it's all men. Now Neil Tyson's an African American. Michio Kaku is Asian. I'm your standard balding white guy with beard, but I haven't seen any hosted just by women or anything like that, which is interesting to me, and I don't know what to make of that.
I think Pamela Gay could do one.
Pamela, obviously. Yeah, oh my gosh, I'd love to do something with her, of course, but I love Pamela. But it's interesting. I don't know if that's on the network side, if it's on the science side, if it's on the consumer side, or what. These are complicated issues, but it occurred to me the other day that it's interesting to watch television and suddenly realize what you're seeing and not knowing, why did they choose this person? No, I'm an astronomer and I've done this kind of stuff, but but it's interesting. I don't know.
Let's wrap up the interview with a few thoughts about something that was certainly an introduction to me about who you were and what you were doing. Your first book, and one of the major concerns you had in the skeptical field, was the moon hoaxes. What's the current state? Well, it's sort of like yo-yo craze, I mean, 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was all the Fox thing.
Man never walked the dog.
That's it.
Never around the world. I'm trying to think of yo-yo tricks.
It comes and goes, but I haven't heard any moon hoaxes popping up lately. It's almost like it's beginning. You get nostalgic for the days when people were carrying on about this, but it's still out there, right?
Back in the day when it was so easy to debunk something because it's so ridiculous that there's like, oh, you're making this claim. Well, turn around because there's this enormous tsunami of evidence about to drown you that you're wrong. I yearn for the Face on Mars days. And,
those are the days.
The moon hoax had its heyday.
Yeah.
It had been around in small terms ever since Apollo, and Bill Casing, the guy who was basically the father of the moon hoax, was actually involved in the Apollo program, and he said he had all these baloney things he used to say. I have a top secret clearance. Well, yeah, you were a file clerk, basically. You had to have top secret clearance by law to be able to take a file somebody hands you and put it into a locked cabinet. It doesn't mean that you have any real inside information on what's going on. But he made all these outrageous claims about the moon landings being fake that were ridiculous. It got a little bit of media attention. There's a James Bond movie where there's a chase scene where he's running through a set where they're filming a moon landing being faked.
It's a Diamonds Are Forever, I think.
I think so. I think that's right.
It's
been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah.
There have been movies here and there where they've mentioned it.
I know, was that movie?
Dan Aykroyd mentions it in Sneakers, I think. where he says, where they faked the moon landing, and then there's Capricorn 1.
Capricorn 1, that's the movie.
Where they faked a Mars landing, which is actually a pretty good pot boiler.
It was a fun movie.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until 2001 when Fox, and again, thank you, Australia, for Rupert Murdoch. When Fox aired a show called Conspiracy Theory, Did We Land on the Moon? And then this thing exploded. And it was right at the time when the internet was getting really popular in the year 2000, 2001. And so it spread like Ebola. But like Ebola, it burned itself out relatively quickly.
I think so, yeah.
There were a few people out there who were promoting it really hard. Bart Sabrell, who made his ridiculous videos. When your most famous act is getting punched in the head by Buzz Aldrin in September 2002, maybe you should rethink your career choices. But, and I knew it would eventually. I put up a website about it. My friend Jay Windley, who is an aerospace engineer, he put up a very detailed analysis of all these claims. And, once it's on the web, people could find it. And it just started dying off. And there are still a couple of diehard guys. There's this guy in Australia who makes YouTube videos. He was at TAM 8.
Oh, I remember him, yes.
He accosted me, and he accosted Adam Savage. Adam smacked him down pretty good in public. And he actually wanted to interview me, but I agreed at first, but then changed my mind. Because he was completely impervious to evidence. Mm-hmm. He would ask me questions, and when I'd answer them, he would either change the subject or bring up something that had nothing to do with what was going on. And it was, it was clear to me, and I've seen his videos, it's clear to me that evidence is not something he's interested in unless it supports what he's claiming.
Yeah.
If he can find, he's an anomaly hunter. He looks through 10,000 pieces of evidence which show we go to the moon, and if there's one thing that looks a little fishy, he talks about that. And it's like, well, maybe you just don't understand what's going on, and you should look at these other thousands of things that show that we did go to the moon. But that's not how he operates. And so I was like, I don't trust him. I figure he's going to edit me and make me look like I don't know what I'm talking about. And so I just said, nah, screw it.
These days, you don't have to give these people airtime, do you?
No.
And, the day's gone.
And the media loves to do that. They like to bring in somebody pro and somebody con, and it's but why do that? Yeah. We know. I could claim that they're pink unicorns floating in the sky, and why should you bring in an expert in aerial phenomena saying no to argue against this? It's ridiculous. You're giving credence to this other person.
That's what the media do.
But that is what the media do. Yeah, to them it's and totally understandable. And the example I typically use is abortion. It's a very hot topic. It brings up a lot of emotions. I can argue persuasively on both sides, pro and con. Should we have abortions? Should we not? And the point is, people of good moral stance can come down on either side of this issue. So to have a balance, you want to have this open discussion. But when you're talking about something that is clearly real and something that clearly isn't, there is no fair and balance. To be balanced, there's my dog going outside. That's okay for you Aussies.
Must be another squirrel.
Or there's another moon hoax person listening in. It could be a squirrel. Hang on, I'll close the window. For those of you who follow my blog, that was Canis Minor, the black and white dog. I put pictures of her up on the blog sometimes. But it's just this idea of you have to have both sides of an issue and everything like that. It's baloney. That's just not true. If you want to be fair, then the newscast should be, here's why the moon landings were real. It's a matter of historical fact. Being fair is showing that they're real, not having some crackpot or somebody who's sincere but wrong.
Yeah, but that sells the paper, or as they say in Australia, it puts bums on seats.
Yeah. The LHC is going to create a black hole. There's an asteroid that's going to kill us because of electromagnetic effects.
Buy our paper and find out why.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all baloney. And it's our job to make sure that, freedom of the press, they can do that, but it's up to us to make sure that they don't get away with it.
All right, Phil, what a wonderful pleasure it's been to catch up with you again. We don't see each other very often.
Not as often as we should, but
No.
it's been great. Actually, Richard's been staying here the past couple of days.
Having-
Full disclosure.
Here we are. And we went for a
But it's been a
wonderful
lot of
hike.
fun.
Our Twitter followers would know that we went for a hike because we were posting photographs of that,
Mhm.
and that was great. And we spent a day yesterday goofing off around Boulder, which was fun.
Just walking around downtown.
Yeah.
Boulder's an awesome town.
It is.
It's similar to Sydney in some ways. It's not as cosmopolitan. It's a much smaller town.
It's laid back, though.
But yeah,
so
a
laid back.
lot of smart folks here. So really, this is a great place to live.
So Phil Plait, the bad astronomer and TV star of Phil Plait's
Yes,
Bad
yes,
Universe.
yes.
Before you go, I'll get you to...
Oh, I've got a sign. Oh,
Sign a
well, I should use. Look, if you're going to hand me a pen, it should at least be a James Randi educational.
If you could
Foundation.
sign that to the Skeptic Zone,
to eBay winner,
eBay winner, and we'll auction that off actually,
Okay.
as signed by Phil Plait while being interviewed on the Skeptic Zone.
For the Skeptic Zone. And I'll just sign it. Yeah, my Australian accent, but we've had this discussion
We have.
before.
Drubbly, yeah.
My Australian accent is just as bad as your American accent.
Yeah,
because
not-
whenever you talk like an American,
Phil Plait, I'm giving my pen back. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Richard, and don't forget to listen to the Skeptic Zone because this is a good podcast. I like this.
Don't forget to watch Bad Universe.
The Skeptic Zone. I can never remember the theme, but there you go.
Well, thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone, our special reports from Dragon Con. Now, we're still here, and believe it or not, Phil's wife is still stuck over there on the logs. But coming up on next week's episode of the Skeptic Zone, it's the big one, Phil. It's our 100th episode and our 2-year anniversary.
Wow, well, that's just base 10. If you were base 12, you'd have 44 more to go.
Yeah, there's always one. And we have a live, we did the Skeptic Zone live at Dragon Con. Our special guests will be Brian Dunning and Brian Brushwood. It was a fantastic time for those people who were there.
Hello.
What is it?
Sorry, I see a fish that's just about 2 meters away from us. See him swimming right there, right in front of us, right where
Yes.
I wasn't sure there were any fish in this lake, but there
There
you
it
go.
is. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Oh, God.
Oh.
Yeah, but I know more.
So, until next week's show, this is Richard Saunders and Phil Plait signing off from, what is it, Black
Lake.
This isn't Black Lake?
Oh, this is Mills Lake.
Signing off.
Oh, well, from another lake entirely.
In Colorado.
I'm sure we're in Colorado, though.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.
The Skeptic